I'm Bob Huckfeldt, and my wife Sharon and I have been members at St. John's since 2003. I baptized in a small rural church in Nebraska where my great-grandfather homesteaded in the 1860s. My dad moved us to Los Angeles when I was 5, so I went to college in the Midwest, and I went to school after that in Chicago and St. Louis as well. Sharon and I have gone around the country for different jobs. And so the places we've been go all the way from where we started out in South Bend, then we went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, then back up to South Bend, Indiana, then Bloomington, Indiana, then Long Island, New York, back to Bloomington, and now to Sacramento. And I started out in Missouri Synod. And the Missouri Synod that I started out in was much more like the evangelical Lutheran Church in America that I'm in today, in a sense, but then there was sort of a conservative rebellion inside the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And so a lot of us probably in the pews at St. John's are, part of that migration out over to the LCA. But I think it's always a mistake to focus on the differences and rather to focus on the commonalities, because we have shared faith. Part of our ecumenical job is to relate not just simply to people that are like us, but also to relate to all those people who believe in Jesus in a way that we can't understand and don't really agree with. Well, I teach courses on politics. You inevitably deal with secular topics that have a lot of spiritual meaning. It has to do with how we treat each other and what the relationship is among people inside a diverse and changing world. And, inevitably people's values get reflected in those kinds of issues, and you see it in all the time in the classroom. I was chair of the call committee that called Pastor Leslie. And I've been on the nominations committee for the congregation. Have stayed overnight with Family Promise. The person that spends overnight stays in Cana. To be candid, in the beginning we did have to nudge in a little bit. And it wasn't that people were unkind, it was just that people weren't as outgoing as they might be. But in the last 10 years, the tempo picked up in terms of cordiality, openness, people really paying attention to the stranger in the midst. And it's very, very exciting. I think St. John's now, is at a very nice place in terms of reaching out to the newcomers, and I think it makes a huge difference to those people as individuals, but also to growth in the church. Leaders aren't necessarily volunteers. They're people who are called, and all of us have a call, I think. And we always have to listen very carefully for the call. I love the story of Samuel in the Bible when Eli says to him, "It's God that's calling you. Listen to what God wants you to do." A big part of the path of life is to figure out what God wants us to do.